everyone for coming to today's webinar. I was especially excited to be the presenter for this because I have heard and gathered your feedback on reporting and analytics over the years, and this is something I'm incredibly passionate about. So this is a very exciting presentation for me. So just so you can put some faces to the names, I'm over here on the left. As Jennifer said, I'm the Senior Director of Onboarding, Education, and Support here at Recurly. And I'm also joined by Emma Clark. Emma is our product manager behind the new analytics platform, and she is really the brawn and the brains behind this. She's been incredibly diligent about taking all of your feedback and building this really elegant analytics platform. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time in slides before we go into a live demo. I just want to cover some of the very basics of analytics for you folks as existing customers. So the first thing I want to talk about is how you can access our new analytics platform. So just like our reporting functionality today, you do need to have a reporting level configuration to Recurly to access analytics. So again, any user who's been added with that reporting level configuration can access this. The core set of our analytics reports are available to all merchants, including those of you on grandfathered plans. But some of our more advanced reports are available for merchants on our current professional or enterprise level plans. And these are the reports that really start to dive into some of the rich data. So they're well worth the upgrade if you need to, or if you've already got one of these plans, I think you're going to be really excited by them. And we'll dive into each of these reports in a live demo. But you know, at the core level, you'll see basic data on MRR, subscriber growth, or churn, or plans. But at these professional or enterprise levels, you're going to see more analysis around that. So the ability to compare things or see growth over time. So really in-depth reporting that is just great for your business. So a little bit of a preface to this new analytics platform. I want to just make it clear that this is just stage one. I know a lot of you have been giving me feedback for a long time about where we're going with reporting and analytics. And the reason why it's been a while is because we really took our time to make sure that this was an elegant and scalable solution that really met everyone's needs. So when you look at your insights into your business as a whole, it's primarily composed of these three circles: billing events, marketing events, and customer events. And you know, our legacy reporting really focused on those pure data billing events, things like, you know, declined transactions or issuing refunds to your customers. With this new analytics platform, we start to bring in more of those customer events. So things like trial conversions and why your customers are canceling and why they're changing their subscriptions. And then the goal is to actually start bringing in more external events. So things like your marketing acquisition costs or your promotional periods. And the idea is that we really want to give you insights into your business. Things like lifetime value, your churn rates, your retention, your MRR, and really give you not only the data behind all of these statistics, but help you understand the factors and the changes that are causing those insights, causing those metrics to change and grow over time. So as part of that, I just wanted to give some insight into where our roadmap is going with analytics. So again, this is just phase one. And part of what we'll be developing is enhancements and improvements to the existing data exports, making it much easier to look at data over time and to customize those exports to get just the data you need. In addition to things like the plan upgrades and downgrade reports and plan conversion reports, we also will have more reporting around trial conversions. Our first analytics pass on MRR we'll talk about today, but we're also already starting to look at making it more flexible for more merchant use cases. So including things like coupons or failed invoices. So more advanced functionality around MRR will also be coming soon. Today, the analytics data is a dashboard for you to view, but we will be adding exports to get the underlying data so you can more easily understand those trends and manipulate that in your own tools and ways. We'll also be building out a forecasted revenue report and making more enhancements to the billing report. So breaking out one-time versus recurring revenue and new customers versus existing customers. So lots of exciting things coming. Emma leads up a really fantastic team that is solely dedicated to data analytics. So this is a big investment for Recurly moving forward. Now, before I move into our demo, I wanted to just give a few little pieces of data to keep in mind that are important when you're looking at the actual numbers. So one thing to keep in mind is that we start to queue the updates of the data once a day at midnight Pacific time. And I say we start to queue because some of these calculations are very intense and take some time. So while we started at midnight, it could take a while to update. So at the bottom of every report, you can actually see the last updated time. So if you're ever concerned about when the numbers are effective as of, it shows in every single report. The time zone that we use in all of our exports is set by your site time zone, and that's in your configuration menu under site settings. If you don't have a site time zone set, we'll default these reports to UTC. So be sure to actually go into your settings menu, go to configuration, go to site settings, take a look at those. It's actually one of the pages I find merchants don't actually revisit. So as long as you're there setting your time zone, go ahead and make sure that your address and your site technical contacts and billing contacts are accurate. It's always good to revisit that once in a while and get updated information. We also put the work, we break up the reporting into different time categories, so monthly, yearly, daily, but it's important to know that Recurly defines a week as Monday through Sunday. All right, well with that, let's go take a look. So I'm going to jump out of Tina and go right to my demo site. Okay. Now, we will have a Q&A session at the end here, so if anything comes up, please feel free to just post that in the question section, and we'll get to your questions. Emma will help us out with that. All right, so we are looking at my demo site right now, and for those of you who haven't yet accessed the analytics reports, they are in your left-hand menu over here, and you can navigate to all of these through the left-hand navigation. All right, so we're going to take a first look at the dashboard report. And this is really one that is a great sort of at-a-glance view of how you're doing in your business model today. So we give you some really key performance indicators to help you understand what's going on. So one of the things I'm really happy to see in this report is instead of just giving you numbers, we actually start to indicate the period of change. So for example, we have the total subscribers as of today, and it lets me know that it's down 9% from a month ago. So all these data are letting you know the point of comparison here. You know, obviously August is a partial month, so here we're looking at July, which was the last full month, and then the percent of change from the previous month. And subscriber LTV does the same as well. So we start to give you some really great ideas of, you know, where your business is going and how things are changing. We also give you a good idea, you know, just some very visual graphics over time of how these things are changing too. So instead of just this quick spotlight number, we let you know your subscriber number changes over time and your churn rate over time. We give you a good graphic letting you know your total number of subscribers, and then you can see per plan who's contributing to that total number of subscribers. So it's a really good way to know which of your plans is most successful. And then even looking closely, even more closely, is showing you by your top 5 plans, you know, how many subscribers and their change over time. Similar to our old transactions report, we actually now have what we're calling revenue. So it's slightly different terminology, but same thing. So billings, as you see here, net billings, is really just defined as payments minus refunds. And this number includes new subscriptions, renewals, one-time transactions. So it gives you a good idea of how your business is doing. You know, maybe this company is billing only 1 day a month, so they have a big spike on the 12th, and it lets you know how your billings are doing to date. We let you know your average revenue per customer, And most of these data fields will give you sort of a hover over to let you know how we're calculating it, and a link to our documentation that explains more information. Average revenue per customer, as you can see here, it takes a look at all of your billings, so your payments minus refunds, and divides it by the number of unique customers. So you can see here for this company, their average revenue is $273 as of July. We also give you an MRR snapshot, which is looking at the sum of your revenue from all of your currently active subscriptions. And again, that's normalized down to the monthly volume. So if you have annual subscriptions, we figure out the monthly value of that and give you an idea there of how your MRR is doing. And then finally, this is probably the stat I'm most excited about, recovered revenue. Recovered revenue is just so key to Recurly's, what Recurly does for your business. And this was a little bit hidden before. You could get the data from your exports. You could see it at the bottom of your Recurly invoice. But now not only is this on your dashboard, but we'll actually go over a whole report on recovered revenue. So this is, again, recovered revenue is any customers that might have been lost due to payment issues that Recurly has recovered, and we'll talk about that in more detail. And as I showed in my slide deck, you can see the date and time stamp of my last update here. So August 24th at August 24th at 3 a.m. Central Time. All right, so let's go take a look at the new subscribers report. And again, you can see here that we put a number of KPIs across the top of the screen. And first and foremost, it's so great to be able to see at a snapshot your total number of subscribers and the change that you've seen in the last month. So I could look at this and think, okay, 9% down in the last month. And if that's concerning, I can go down below and see, if that's a constant downward trend or maybe just something random. So, maybe this month has just caused a little bit more subscriber churn than usual. So you do have the ability to start looking at those accounts over time and start to spot the trends. So as you can see for this company, there was some downward trends a couple months in a row, and compare that to even a year ago. We do have the ability to set on this report, you can take a look at, your daily numbers, your weekly, or your monthly. Oh, and I got logged out. It's been a while since I pulled up this page. So I'll get myself logged back in, and you can then see the daily numbers as well. And because that is actually causing such a lot of data, I'll switch back to monthly numbers just so you guys can see a little bit more detail here. Subscriber growth is another report that's really exciting to see here in Recurly because it gives you a lot of information about your customers. You're going to see that you have, this overall number of current subscribers, but what's happening? So you can see that number and then break it down by how many new subscribers, how many you lost that month, and then the resulting net subscribers. So at any point in time, you can go in here and see what's going on with your business. So this is one of those reports that in the past I would get some sort of frantic end of month, I have to report on this for my board, and now you just have this great UI, really easy to pull this information historically and show the trends. And then finally, we do give you that data in a nice table format, so it's really easy to see what's going on in your business. You can see here this company has spikes in September and April, and then everything is really slowed down. And then finally in July, they get a whole bunch of decreases in their subscribers. So that company might want to take a look at those months and see, were they running promotional offers in September and April? What happened in July? It leads to a lot of interesting investigation there. All right. So let's take a look at the number of subscribers per plan. And again, some very similar KPIs before, letting you know the total of your subscriptions compared to previous months and a year ago. And you can see that those numbers match what we saw before. But then where it gets really fun is it breaks down your subscribers by plan. So you can start to see what is contributing to your subscriber count. So you can see on here that the number of bronze subscribers is pretty steady throughout the life cycle of this company, and where they grew probably the most was actually in their silver plan. You can see that, a year ago they only had 181 subscribers, but as you hover over, you can see the growth of this plan over time. So again, something really great to show to your board or to your team members, to show them what plans are most successful and where your subscriber count is coming from. All right, MRR is a fun report. And as I mentioned in the slide deck portion of this webinar, everyone calculates MRR slightly differently. So, keep in mind that this is Recurly's, we define this based on the most common feedback, and wanted to just really give our merchants a good basis for common MRR calculations, and then we'll be building in more flexibility in the future. So Recurly calculates MRR today by just looking at recurring subscription charges. So this doesn't include one-time charges, taxes, coupons, things like that. It is truly just looking at subscription billing. And this is a really great report to think about the trend of your business over time. You can see, this company had a very slow uptick, but then all of a sudden their MRR increased. So this would be a good sign of health for the company and a good set of data to report on. We also break out the growth of your MRR by area. So this is kind of a new interesting area that I'll go into a little bit of detail, but MRR growth can be defined by new subscribers. So people who are totally new to Recurly is contributed by just those new subscriptions. Expansion MRR, which you can see really heavily here in May 2015 and contributes to this spike up here above, is an increase in MRR or that recurring revenue based on a plan quantity or increase or an upgrade to a more expensive plan. Reactivation MRR is when a customer who has canceled or churned out completely, so I should say expired, and then they resubscribe and they have a new subscription. We also track contraction MRR, and that is just directly opposite of expansion MRR. So anyone who has downgraded or decreased the quantity of their subscription plan. And then we also have churn. And you can see churn is a very small number for this company, except back in April. And again, that coincides with less MRR. And that's just really MRR that's lost when a customer leaves. So you can start to see, you can pull in this, raw MRR number, but then you can really dive into the reasons behind it with this new report here. And then again, we have a nice table here. So beyond just the visual, we'll give you those numbers per month, and you can start to see where that MRR contribution is coming from. All right. Subscriber retention is a report you're probably used to seeing in the current Recurly UI, but we've actually modified this a little bit for the new analytics platform. So subscriber retention is really looking at the cohort of a subscription. So if we take a look at this first cohort, which is March 2015, we can see that in March, 303 new subscribers came into this business. And month 0 is defined as that same month. So it's saying that by in the month of March, 100% of the subscribers came in. And then by the end of the month, so 30 days later, 73% of the customers were still there. So it's kind of an interesting statistic. And then again, looking below at April, you can see that, boy, within that first month, they actually lost a lot of customers, and they must have made some changes in May because that trend doesn't increase, maybe showing more value or having more communication with their customers. And then it lets you know over time what's happening with your subscribers. When are they churning out? how long are they staying active. And this really helps you measure things like promotional periods. If you've offered some sort of special deal, you can see how they perform over time. If you're trying more outreach or things, you can also see how that is performing over time. And one of the things I like, is the nice color formatting. It seems like a simple thing, but it is a really nice visual to see where things are going with your business. All right. So I talked about billings a little bit in the dashboard, but again, billings are defined as payments minus refunds. So transactional history, payments, and things like that. And again, we give you some nice KPIs to keep in mind, where you're at so far in the month and the change over last month. And it aligns the dates for the same period as well. And then it looks at the last full month, previous month, and then 3 months and a year ago. And you can divide up this page into just looking at, net billings or focus on payments versus refunds. Looking at the history of billings is a great practice just to make sure, payments are going through well. We've had some merchants who want to keep a close eye on refunds and make sure that their customer service team isn't giving out too many refunds. So again, that's something great to work with. This report is also really helpful when you're looking at your bank statements and trying to reconcile what Recurly has processed versus what you receive in your bank account. So being able to easily see that net amount that will show up in your bank account is pretty important there. All right. Churn analysis is super fun. A lot of customers look at their subscriber churn and they're wondering, well, what happened? Where did this come from? And we have an export in Recurly that shows churn, but having this visual, I think, is very critical to your business to see what's going on and to make sure that your churn is healthy. Because with subscription billing, churn is a normal part of business. You can see here that we have a couple of different churn rates, or churn reasons, I should say. Non-payment, so a customer who has expired because they didn't pay and they went through the dunning process without successful payment. We also track cancellations, customers who churned out because they're not renewing, so that would be something like you created a subscription plan that only bills 3 times and then it expires. And then we also track accounts that have closed. So really good way to break out your churn reasons and see where it's coming from. And then even more so, we look at voluntary versus involuntary churn. So traditionally, that would be like a self-serve cancellation versus non-payment. And you can start to see what might be going on there. I see sort of a little bit of everything, but usually I see a pretty even match between voluntary and involuntary churn. So if you ever see big spikes in either direction or big spikes of change over time, it could be an indicator that you need to look at your churn reasons. And then again, over time, you now have a really great ability to look at churn and see if any big trends are happening, anything you should be concerned about. You can see this customer has been going from less than 1% of churn to almost 11%. So clearly something happened in July that I would expect business leaders at this company to want to look into. Okay, so plan performance is one of the new reports inside of Recurly, and this is one of those features that is a enterprise. You need our Enterprise 2016 plan. So if you're interested in that, we can certainly talk more. But it allows you to take 2 different plans and see how they're doing in Recurly. So taking a look, I just chose a couple of different plans that had some interesting data. So I'm going to compare my platinum plan with my yearly plan. And it's interesting because this is a monthly plan, this is a yearly plan, and some things to look at are the trial lengths, the cost, the bill cycles, and see what's attracting more customers. So you can compare things like current subscriptions and the MRR. So one way you might want to use this is if you're deciding whether or not to offer a trial period. So you could have a platinum version with no trial and a platinum version with one and see how your subscribers are doing over time and what their MRR is to see what's going on there. We let you know the growth of the plan as of the current time and how it's doing in terms of churn. This one I think is interesting because when you're looking at a monthly versus yearly, churn is probably not going to be super high because it does probably take them a full year to churn out, especially if it's a payment issue. And you can see here that the trial conversion rate is very successful for this plan, not so successful for the yearly plan. And you can see what it's doing in contribution to your MRR and the lifetime value of each of these customers. So even though they're priced the same, this platinum plan, well, I should say they're actually not priced the same because they have different bill cycles, but you can see that the platinum plan has a much higher lifetime value than the yearly one. And then you can see the number of subscribers in a nice visual over time. We'll let you report on the churn and looking at the trial conversions. And plan movement is an interesting one too because it shows you the customers who move from one plan to another. So it doesn't include subscriptions that are completely new or have churned, but those that are upgrading or downgrading into one of these plans. And then again, it will show you the MRR that each of these plans is contributing to your business and the subscription lifetime value. Okay, recovered revenue. This is my Recurly specialty. I love recovered revenue. So with any subscription billing process, you're going to have payment problems. Things happen when you're billing customers. You know, their card might get stolen and marked as declined. They might get a new card with a chip in it and the old one might be invalid. They might have insufficient funds or be past due on their credit card statement. All sorts of things happen. And in my past life doing billing for other companies, I dedicated so much manual time to following up on those payments. I had spreadsheets and calendar reminders and it was totally crazy. And that is why, the number one reason why I was so excited to join Recurly, because I loved what they did around recovered revenue. So recovered revenue is just a great stat to look at because it helps you understand what your investment in Recurly is returning to your business. So, and I always love seeing when recovered revenue is like a factor of 10 against what a customer is paying to us. It's just money in the bank for you guys, and it just turns into not needing to invest in staffing resources. It's all automated, so I think it's pretty amazing. So again, some key performance indicators letting you know how much money Recurly has recovered for you to date compared to last month, 3 months ago, and a year ago. We'll also break out your recovered revenue by by recovery area. So this particular merchant, I would probably say, needs to turn on Account Updater. I noticed that they didn't have any Account Updater recovery, and so they didn't have that feature turned on when I looked into it. And again, Account Updater is the Recurly service that reaches out to a customer's bank before renewal and gets updated information. So in any of those cases where the card is expired or they get a new card with an EMV chip, if the bank participates in this program and responds, we automatically update that billing information in Recurly and can keep billing the customer. Recycling retries, that's just Recurly retry logic, card recycling logic. So when that decline happens, we will look at the error message in question and retry based on that error message. So if it's an insufficient funds, we might retry every 3 or 5 days. Recurly also has logic around expiration date. Because most banks don't validate on expiration date, we can look at expiring cards and advance that date in the future. So most banks just want to make sure that that date is in the future. They're not specifically looking at whether or not it's exactly a match. And that's the sort of thing that Account Updater might provide, but we have a lot of logic to work with that. So one of the common questions we get in support is, well, why don't you send out an email when a card is about to expire? And it's because it's totally unnecessary between this logic and Account Updater. Recurly works with that, and most merchants have very few declines because of expiration date. So again, you have a really nice chart here that explains what Recurly is doing for your business. It's showing you every single month how many customers that have been saved by Recurly, and how much money has been brought into your customers that could have been lost had you not been using this functionality. And then we also tie that money to that revenue towards the different areas of recovery to let you know what's successful for your business. And then finally, probably needs no explanation, but we still do have our regular exports. So if you ever want to dive into any of this data, we will be coming out with exports specifically tied with these reports, but all of our standard Recurly reports are available to all customers to help slice and dice your own data and do what you want with it. All right, so at this point, I am finished with the demo, and I'm assuming there are going to be a lot of questions. So at this point, Emma will likely be joining me. She knows far more than anyone about all of these different reports, so I'll expect her to help me out with some of these questions that I'm sure you folks have. All right, so I'm going to jump over into the chat. So Michael was asking, is there documentation yet on any of the definitions around each KPI? Michael, absolutely. So if you go to our documentation site, we explain a lot of these. And then again, in the application, if there are stats, let me pull up one that I know has one, just to give an example. If there are stats that might be confusing, we do have this little button you can hover over, and it explains how we do that calculation. Lifetime value especially is one of those really confusing ones where we're using some very in-depth calculations. That's one of those ones I always want Emma to back me up on. But lifetime value calculations are then included in these hover overs. So if you have questions about that, take a look. If not, check our docs and we will have those KPIs for you. Okay, let's see here. Some other questions coming in. The customer is asking about lifetime value, and they said, does subscriber LTV take into the account of the length or amount of trial and coupons? And it doesn't. So just to clarify, lifetime value is using the MRR, which doesn't include coupons or trials. So it is just really looking at those actively paying customers sending revenue through. It's not tracking contra revenue or potential trial revenue. Okay, here's another good question. So are new subscriptions people who have paid or just signed up? So keep in mind that a subscriber is different from an account. So a customer can have an account inside of Recurly with no subscription. It just means that we have their data in our system. Someone who is in the new subscriber report, so someone who's considered in this report I'm showing here, has to have an actual subscription to Recurly. And it doesn't matter if they've paid anything yet. They could be in trial, they could have a fully discounted subscription, they could have a coupon or a credit. It just matters that they have a subscription on their account that applies to here. All right. So another question that came in, and Emma, I might ask you to talk more about this one. Michael is asking, is there an LTV by plan?
Yeah, so can you hear me okay, Rachel?
Yes.
Actually, so we don't currently have an individual report that speaks to LTV by plan. We're building out a report that allows you to look at historic LTV, but if you navigate to the plan performance page, that's the go-to place. Now, I know this report has limited availability, but this would be the place if you go to the very bottom where we would segment LTV by that plan. So by that, I mean, we're looking at the lifetime value of the subscriptions that are in that plan for the time range selected. Of course, incorporating the MRR contributed by those customers and the churn of subscriptions in that plan. So that's kind of the best way to take a look at that. And we don't have a separate report at this time that goes into LTV by plan.
And Emma, I think this is a good follow-up question to that, asking, so does this mean that a discounted plan is not included in LTV?
So that is a good question. It doesn't necessarily mean that the plan isn't. It means that the value of the discount is not currently included. So Rachel mentioned one of the enhancements that we're working on is allowing you to choose, because monthly recurring revenue isn't the same as GAAP revenue in terms of the widely accepted industry standards. We understand that folks look at their MRR in different ways. So once we provide that option to include discounts, coupon discounts in the MRR calculation, that will have an impact to your LTV. Otherwise, your LTV will run off of the charges that are included in monthly recurring revenue. And you can go into that in a little bit more detail on how LTV is calculated. In the documentation, we go into that in quite a bit of detail.
Great, thank you, Emma. Another question, and I realized I was a little bit biased towards monthly data here. Someone was asking to look at one of these reports on a weekly basis. So let me pull that up here. Let's take a look at our number of subscribers on a weekly basis. So then again, you know, this site has a lot of data. And so if I want to maybe drill it down to just looking at a set period of time here, let's see, let's focus it to maybe just a few months, not too crazy here. Then you can start to see even more drill down on a weekly basis. And again, a week is defined in Recurly as Monday through Sunday, and that is currently fixed for all customers. Louis was asking if there's an API for these stats. Not today, Louis. This is all just available through our UI to give you this visual data, and sort of an interesting concept to think about how we might expose this via the API, but today it is UI and export related. Okay. Another question from Judy that I think, Emma, I'd love your feedback. She's asking, is it possible to see year-over-year change percent as well as month-over-month percent on the dashboard?
Yeah, go ahead. Not currently, but I like that idea. So especially for those that want to see, who've been with Recurly for quite a while. That being said, you can go in to any of these reports and expand the time frame back to your entire history with Recurly, and that will show you throughout the year. So if you go to all time, for example, Rachel.
There we go.
Yep, make it easy. Then you won't necessarily see it. Depends on how you're thinking about year over year. You'll be able to see, and we condensed 2014, January 2015. You can see how things are doing throughout the years. We don't necessarily have it where it's a line chart, for example, for billings for all of 2014 versus all of 2015 at this point.
That's definitely a great functionality request, though. We'll make sure to track that. And especially for the folks that are really diving into this, your feedback is really important to us. And again, just like we did before with this iteration, please submit your feedback to support. Emma was so diligent about looking at years of feedback and talking to the support team. So your feedback really does help us develop this stuff. And especially as you folks being existing customers looking at this for the first time, we really love to get your feedback and future enhancement requests. Oh, Louis had a good question. He said, are there any actionable items from the color choices? And, you know, I think in general, you can kind of think about them as standard sort of color relationships. You know, new subscribers, green, go, it's good. Churning is you know, customers leaving you, so it's not necessarily as good, and red. And then net is sort of a neutral number, so a more neutral color. But beyond that, on other things like, let's take a look at the recovered revenue, you know, just colors chosen to help, you know, differentiate between the different groups. So we do, it does look like we've, you know, chosen some very specific color choices in some areas. Obviously, increases in the KPIs are green and decreases are red. So just a quick visual reminder to let you know what that number means. Okay, I see a few more questions. Let me just dig through them to make sure I get
Rachel, while you're doing that one, there's a good one on here that someone asked that I wanted to clarify, but I think it'll be relevant for everyone here. They asked whether or not the old reports would be going away at some point. Yeah, and that's it. I noticed that one. I thought that may be a good one for us to speak to. And the answer is yes. You will notice that you currently have access to analytics and reports. Part of the process for creating new analytics was taking every single report that existed in the report section and enhancing it and making it better. So you won't be missing out on functionality by us removing reports. The one minor thing that is not included right now but will be included in the next few weeks is that on the subscriber retention report, currently in the old reporting functions, you could segment that by plan, even though it may have been a little difficult to view if you had lots of plans. And if you go to the new subscriber retention report, actually, Rachel, right on that page, you can see at the top there. There's a little banner that will show you, it'll assume you're replaced by this new subscriber retention report. It'll take you there if you click on it. And right now, there's not a drop down for segmenting that by plan. We will be adding that in the next few weeks here before we remove the old reports. And we will notify folks before they're taken away. We won't suddenly just take them away. So any feedback you have and questions around the changes between the two different reports, we highly recommend that you let us know ahead of time now so that we're able to answer them before we remove them.
So another question came in asking about the pricing. So again, most of these reports are available to you regardless of price, but a few of them you are required to be on current pricing, and then plan performance is enterprise. So if you're interested in upgrading, you can go to the admin section of your account and you can see your current plan. So this account is on the annual enterprise plan for 2016, so they do have all reporting, but then you can see the upgrade prices here as well. If you do have any questions about upgrading from an older plan or want to talk pricing, just let our support team know and we'll route you to the right people. These analytics, I think, are just fabulous and definitely save you the cost of having to use an external data reporting system to get some really great insights into your business. Okay, a couple more questions coming in. I'm just checking to make sure I got all the ones before I jump into new ones. Okay. So Emma, someone was asking, on the average revenue per customer, can we get a few more decimals to see the number of cents? I'm guessing this is someone who has maybe a lower price subscription that needs more detail in the average revenue. Is that something we're looking at adding?
We have heard that feedback. So you go to the dashboard real quick. I believe my guess is that they're pricing something maybe at 0.99. And I think that absolutely makes sense. We tried to clean up the dashboard a little bit to make it easier to view, but I don't see a reason why we couldn't add that. We certainly have the information, so let me write a note down.
Great. Well, it looks like the questions have died down, so I'll wrap things up. But again, we really want your feedback here. I am very grateful to Emma for everything all the feedback she's pulled in, and we'll continue to iterate. This is a big investment for Recurly moving forward. Full team dedicated to this, so lots of resources. So let us know how this needs to develop for you moving forward, and give it a try and send your feedback our way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I do want to remind you that we are recording today's event, and we will be sending an email out with a link to the recording in the next few days. Again, thank you, and we'll be sure if we missed any questions, we'll get back to you offline. Thank you. Have a good day.